on 770 CHQR.
Brought to you by the Popowich Carmeli Advisory Group, CIBC Wood Gundy.
It's Ryan Jespersen and Danielle Smith with you province-wide this morning. The morning after, Albertans spoke loud and clear. A provincial election that sees a Conservative government return to power, a majority government, of course, led by Premier-designate Jason Kenney. We'll be talking to the victor in Calgary-Elbow, Doug Schweitzer, in just a moment. But right now, it's a pleasure to welcome to the program Greg Clark, who fought hard to keep his seat with the Alberta Party. Greg, thanks for making time for us this morning.
Great to be here, Ron.
Where's your head at right now? I mean, a lot of people had you as the one Alberta Party candidate that they were choosing to keep a seat, a popular MLA, obviously, in Calgary-Elbow. How are you feeling today?
Look, it was a pretty big wave. Albertans were pretty darn clear on the change they wanted, and that's what they voted, pretty overwhelmingly. No, obviously not just here in Calgary-Elbow, but all around the province. And you've got to respect that desire for change. And look, I will never cheer against Alberta. I sincerely hope that the UCP and Jason Kenney are successful in all that they seek to do to make our province a better place and then bring some prosperity back to Alberta.
Oh, I have to tell you, we've got Doug Schweitzer we're speaking to next. I had to admit to him that I kind of was betting against him. I thought you were going to win, especially with Stephen Mendel's performance in the debate. And as we pointed out on the show, 10% in the polls, but it wasn't enough to be able to win a seat. So I guess the question is that the end of the middle? Is that the end of these centrist parties that are trying to draw from left and right? If you're going to be progressive, is it now park your vote with the NDP? If you're going to be conservative, go to the UCP?
No, I really don't think so. Look, Daniel, by the time all the votes are counted, more than 150,000 Albertans will have voted Alberta Party. I mean, that is a massive accomplishment. Sure, it's an artifact of the system, the way, obviously we ended up with no seats, and I'm not a democratic reform proportional representation guy. I wouldn't necessarily advocate we change that system, but I look at what we have to build on from here in the center. I think this election was about change. It was about getting the economy rolling. It was about building pipelines. And let's face it, there was a lot of fear out there. A lot of people have lost their jobs. Others are underemployed and still more worried about their economic well-being. When you're in that kind of situation, you're not going to take any chances. You're going to back the horse that's pushing hardest on economic issues. Without question, Jason Kenney was very adept at doing that, and so Albertans spoke. When you've got 55% of the popular vote going to one party in our system, I mean that is an overwhelming majority. So I don't think it says much about the long-term big picture for centrist parties. I do think there's a bright future for us.
Greg, a bouquet for you from Rob the Libertarian on our text line. He says, I must say I'm going to miss Greg Clark. Of all the party leaders you've had on the show over the years, he was by far the most reasonable and sensible. Quite a statement by the province of Alberta, says Rob. After a protest vote and vote splitting, got the NDP elected in 2015. Most people just weren't going to take a chance of voting for anybody but the United Conservatives. He references you as a party leader. In retrospect, do you think it was a mistake for the Alberta Party to put that leadership up for grabs and ultimately have you not even seek that leadership?
No. Stephen Mandel took us to places the party's never been before. We ran 87 candidates. We raised more money than we've ever raised, and under Stephen's leadership, we earned 150,000 votes. That's a huge accomplishment, and as a part of that team, I'm just incredibly proud of the kind of people that Stephen attracted to this party. We had the most capable, talented, diverse slate of candidates anywhere in the province, and so Stephen did a fantastic job. He took this party forward, and we're going to keep building. It's going to take a little longer, I think, than we might have hoped. But no, I think there's a real role for the Alberta Party to play going forward.
You got a few more bouquets coming your way. Gary says Greg represented Elbow well. Thank you. Sheldon says Greg's a good dude. Don't know why he was booted out as leader. Just sort of mirroring what Ryan just said. What is next for you personally?
My dad's building a deck, so I think he needs some help with that. In all seriousness, you know what? There's a lot of ways to contribute to Alberta and to build community, and being in elected office is certainly one of those ways, but it's not the only way, and maybe not even the very best way. So I'm going to keep keep building community. I think I'll probably go back to the private sector in some form or other. I had a company before, and I'm going to sort of think about maybe dusting that off and seeing what opportunities are out there. And obviously spend a bit of family time here. I'm going to take my time to figure out exactly where to go, but I'm going to stay engaged in building our province.
All right. Well, be in touch when we know what you're doing next. Do you have any? Can I just say? Do you have one final word for? We're going to Doug Schweitzer, who's going to be you're handing off the baton to. Do you have a final word of advice for him as he takes over the riding?
I would just say congratulations, good luck, and look after my neighbors.
Okay, Greg Clark.
Greg, one more. Tim from Drayton Valley here says, what a class act. Thanks so much for your service and dedication. I'll echo that, Greg. You and I have had conversations on and off the record over the last number of years. I've always appreciated them. I've appreciated your perspective. I've appreciated the fact that at the times where you had a caucus of one, you were punching well above your weight class with shadow budgets and everything else. And on behalf of a healthy democracy and a province that I love dearly, I know you do too as well. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you. All right, now we're moving on to, as I mentioned, the what do you call it? Is it MLA designate?
I'm just going to say I'm going to say the victor.
The victor in Calgary-Elbow. We are joined by Doug Schweitzer. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me on this morning.
Now, people will remember you because you raised your profile when you ran in the leadership race as well, and so you're not an unfamiliar name to people. How did it go in the Elbow riding when you were going door to door?
Well, you know what? First of all, I just want to acknowledge. I mean, you just had Greg on the line. You know, he's a complete class act, and he was really well regarded locally. So we knew from day one that we had a fight on our hands, and we had to really go out there and earn the trust of voters in Calgary-Elbow. So our team for the last year has been door knocking. We've door knocked the entire constituency 5 times, and yesterday, just on election day alone, we made it through the entire constituency twice at the doors. So we literally had an army of volunteers going out, talking to people, making sure that they knew all the details about the vote, what was at stake, what the message was. And, you know, our team delivered yesterday, and it's really humbling to have a victory here.
Doug, go ahead, Danielle.
I do know that riding tends to be more progressive and tends to care more about the social issues. I know during the course of the campaign that you did your own press release when there was a rally at your office on the issue of gay-straight alliances. Did Mark Smith make things awkward for you?
You know what? As a party, this is where our ground game really came in. When Albertans heard what our official position was on issues, when they got outside the filter of media, when they got outside the filter of social media, and they heard directly from us, you know, what our position was around gay-straight alliances and other issues of the day, they really started to buy into what we wanted to do. And then they went back to their main issue as well that they wanted to talk to at the doors, which is about jobs and the economy. So we made sure we had a big focus on talking directly to people, you know, husbands, wives, single people as well, making sure that they understood exactly where our party stood.
I think a lot of people looked to you and now look to you to be as what they would perceive as a progressive voice within this caucus, within a majority government caucus. And I think that those same people, and you know this question's coming, were disappointed when you were a no-show in a couple of debates where you expected to be at amid the turmoil, amid the controversy. Why didn't you show up to those? And what's your message to the constituents in Calgary-Elbow that go, Doug, did we get the wrong read on you?
You know what? We got bombarded with requests for lots of different debates throughout the constituency. We participated in 2. We participated in a big one at the University of Calgary. There was also one put on by the Elbow Park School, by the elementary kids. To be honest, the best debate that I saw in all of Alberta was put on by grade 5 and 6 at Elbow Park. They keep the candidates honest, and their questions were probing. I kid you not, their questions were amazing.
Kids are so smart these days. Okay, look, can you give us a sneak peek about what happens next? I have high expectations that we're going to see your name with minister in front of it very soon. What happens now? Do you know anything about what the steps forward are, when the handoff is going to occur, what your leader is going to be planning?
At a very high level, I know Jason Kenney is going to be meeting with his transitional team here very shortly. And I don't know all the details about it, but I do believe over the next 3 to 4 days, he's going to be working with them as to what his next government will look like. And then hopefully soon all Albertans will know.
It was James Joyce last night, right? The after party was James Joyce. Is that right?
You know what?
That's where people were hanging out? I think
you went home early.
I went home to sleep.
Did you go home early, Doug?
I had an interview at 7 o'clock this morning. I'm like, I need to go home and sleep.
Here's what I'm getting at. It doesn't. I'm pretty sure it was at the James Joyce. My thing is if what I hear about Jason Kenney, his work ethic, the way his mind works is correct, I have to assume that he was finding moments to slip into a corner in that bar and scribble on cocktail napkins, because, I mean, it's not as though last night was a surprise to people. And there was a lot of confidence within United Conservative circles that this was, I mean, Jason made no secret about it himself, talking about the fact that they're already drawing up draft legislation. They want to hit the ground running. And I would think that that would include composing a cabinet.
You know, everything that I've seen with Jason Kenney, I mean, first of all, I ran against him in the leadership. He is one of the most prepared politicians you'll ever find in Canada. The team that he has built around him is first class. Like people from the political front to the policy advisors. Expect very shortly here to start seeing the framework of what the first 100 days are going to look like.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy summer for you, I would imagine. But just tell us, why did you want to take on this role? What is the most important thing that you're going to be fighting for on behalf of your constituents and for under the banner of the UCP generally?
The biggest thing for me, I mean, as a restructuring lawyer, I saw firsthand like how many people have lost jobs, how many businesses have gone under. And that's what motivated me to run in the first place. With my family going through the same stuff in the early 80s, my parents had a small business and they lost that. They lost their home, and for a period of 5 to 10 years, they really struggled. So when I see Albertans now going through the exact same thing, that's why I got into this. That's why I'm running, and I want to get Albertans back to work. Yeah,
a lot of people live in your riding because of its close proximity to downtown, and I have to imagine that you're hearing that a lot on the doors. One of the unique, I suppose, a challenge and an opportunity that you had is that your messaging did not have to combat with that of the incumbent government. You were having to convince people that island there, that Greg Clark, that Alberta Party island, for the better, and I don't discount his other 3 colleagues that by the time they built the caucus to 4, but it was a different fight that you had. You had a different fight than trying to convince people that the job-killing carbon tax and the accidental government and all that messaging. You had a different fight on your hands. What ultimately allowed you to be successful?
You know, Calgary-Elbow is so diverse. People hear the Elbow name and they think of Elbow Park, but you have communities like Glamorgan, you've got the area near Chinook Mall, you've got 17th Avenue with apartment buildings. It is extremely diverse, and literally, like block by block is actually very, very different. You go to one block and it actually have a bunch of NDP signs. You go to the next block, it's Alberta Party signs. Then you go to 2 or 3 blocks and it's Conservative signs. So we've literally had to go out and find every single potential supporter out there and talk to them and keep them motivated.
All right, Doug, thank you so much for taking some time to come in today. I know it was a late night and you probably got a lot of planning to do. I'm looking forward to having a continued conversation with you over the next 4 years.
I appreciate it. And Ryan's not crying too much about the playoffs with his Edmonton Oilers out either.
Well, you know what? I mean, here's the thing. And this is not a secret to anybody tuned in, but I'm a born and raised Calgary kid, right? So for me, it'll be the Alberta teams first, but I am mourning the death of my playoff pool, Schweitzer, because I went heavy on Tampa. I went heavy on San Jose, heavy on Pittsburgh, and I'm being just absolutely decimated right now. So
now all he's got left is to vote for, is to root for Calgary Flames.
Left is to see the Calgary Flames do well, get out of this series, do what they can against Colorado, and see what happens from there. But after that, I'll make my way down the Canadian remainders, and then I'll see what happens before I start cheering for the Leafs.
Who's after the Flames?
Okay, hang on. We're going to take a break, and you guys are going to continue this conversation
the Doug and
off the air.
Sports Show.
I know.
Hey, man, congratulations. Good to see you, and thanks for joining us in studio.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back on Chorus Radio.